Hello, everybody. Welcome to Elite Weather Forecasting. My name is Mr. G, your meteorologist, and in this video, we're going to be talking about the next round of some storms that's going to be coming up from the southwest, and it's going to be moving through the Midwest and into the Great Lakes and the Northeast. And the one thing about this video is we're going to be talking about the lack of snow that we're seeing across the East. The only place that we're really seeing any real snow in the Eastern U.S. is in the Buffalo area, portions of upstate New York, where we're seeing that lake effect snow, and we're seeing snow across the northern plains and the upper Midwest. So Minnesota into the Dakotas and Montana, we're seeing that snow across the high plains, the northern plains, and portions of the upper Mississippi River Valley. But we're not really seeing that snow down through the main portion of the Midwest. And we're talking Illinois, Indiana, and in Ohio, and even into Michigan. We're not really quite seeing the amount of snow that we typically see in your winter, and we're currently halfway through meteorological winter, which will end at March 1st. Is when meteorological winter ends and we move into meteorological spring. But as you can see over my shoulder, it's the GFS projections of these storms that's going to be coming. These are those western storms, those atmospheric river storms, and when they come on shore, we're going to have a storm that's going to drop down the California coastline. That guy there become disorganized as it moves over the southern Rockies, and then as it moves off into the southern plains, it's going to become re-energized and then move off into the Great Lakes and into southern Canada, Ontario, and this is going to be that storm. And as you can see, it's a lot of green. That green is rain. It's not snow, so we're not seeing a lot of snow across the Eastern U.S., and that is because of that pattern. And we're seeing that southern jet stream, the subtropical jet stream, is very energized, but we have a retreating polar jet stream. So we're seeing a warmer than average winter so far. We're seeing those temperatures in the 30s to near 40 up here in the northern plains up in Minnesota. We have a lot of snow, but one of the things about a warmer than average winter is that those temperatures in the 30s, usually in Minnesota in July, and not in July, but in January, we usually spend most of the month in the negative temperature. So we see negative 10s, negative teens, negative 20s, 30s. We see overnight lows and those low, really low wind chills. But we've been seeing those temperatures in the mid to upper 30s. We've been seeing a little bit of that snow even melt a little bit. We've been in a freeze-thaw cycle, so we're seeing a lot more snow because of those temperatures in that prime snow-producing temperature range of the 28 to 32 degrees is where you really want those temperatures to be to maximize the amount of snow that you see. And that's where we've been in Minnesota, which is above average if you think about it for what we typically see in January here across the upper Midwest. And then if you look at the Midwest as far as Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, they have bare ground in many of those places, and they have not seen much in the way of snow at all. And with every passing storm, we're seeing that warmer air because these storms are more based in the southern U.S. and coming from the Pacific, and they are warmer storms. They're not Alberta clippers coming down out of Canada. There's going to be a little bit more moisture starved. Typically, they pick up moisture right in this region because of access to Gulf of Mexico moisture, but we're not seeing that moisture this year from the Gulf of Mexico. We're seeing it, but we're not seeing the storms coming from the right direction. These storms are coming from the southern plains and the southern Rockies. So we're seeing these warmer core storms. So we're seeing that warmer air as well as a very active Gulf Stream. So we're seeing the southeast and into the northeast, that warmer air coming up. So we're not seeing those snow producers. We're not quite seeing nor'easters this winter either that typically produce a lot of snow because they tap into that polar jet stream and that polar express, and it really pulls down that polar vortex air. We're not seeing that really cold air getting pulled into those storms, so they're not producing the snow as they move off into the northeast, these warmer storms. So that's going to continue into And for at least the next couple of weeks across the Northeast, I'm not really seeing any signs yet of these this pattern changing. As you can see, these storms are just storm after storm after storm heading off toward the northeast, but they're all green instead of those blues, which would mean that snow. So here we are as we look at that departure from average. The only place that's above average as far as snow in the northeast is Buffalo, where we're seeing it 61 inches above snow average, because we saw those two leg effect events where they saw where one event they saw 77 inches of snow, and another one they had another 60 inches of snow. So two very large events have them 61 inches above. But if you look at everyone else, we're 13 inches below here in Burlington, 11 inches below in Boston. New York is 6.9 inches below. Philadelphia, 4.8 inches below. And we're even below average here in Pittsburgh at 6 inches below average. And we're 7 inches below there in Caribou, Maine. So we're seeing a massive snow deficit in the Northeast, but we're seeing things right about average where they should be, are slightly above average across portions of Wisconsin, Minnesota, and into the northern plains. But I don't expect that to continue through the winter, mainly because of the southern tracks that the storms. So the next few storms are going to miss us here in Minnesota and across the northern plains. So we're going to have a pretty dry stretch of weather coming up over the next couple weeks. We might get some glancing blows from some of those storms that are passing to our south. I know one of those storms is going to clip southern Minnesota, so we might pick up a little bit of snow. And if you look at this map, this shows the departure from average for the western U.S. The rest of the U.S., though, you look at it down here, this is below average snow, and they're also seeing a lot of below average snow here across the Great Lakes and this portion of the Midwest. But if you look at the northern plains and across the northern Rockies, and even into California, we're seeing how we are way above average in some of these places. Here in California, we're way above average, and then we're seeing it slightly above average here across Minnesota, and then to the Dakotas and Montana and Idaho as well. So a good snow season for a lot of you folks out toward the western U.S. in the northern section, but then across the south, we're seeing a deficit in snow across the southern Rockies through southern Utah, St. George there, and Colorado through Steamboat Springs and down through Pueblo and Durango. We're seeing a deficit. We're seeing that deficit across portions where Flagstaff is. We're seeing a snow deficit across these nations, and in Southern California as well, the mountains are seeing a massive deficit in forest snow, but they're seeing a lot of rainfall because of these warmer core storms. The Pineapple Express, these storms are rich. The moisture for these guys originate down in the subtropics around Hawaii. So we're seeing a lot of these cold, these warm core storms. So with this pattern, we're not going to see much in the way of snow across the southern tier of the nation, but we will see a lot more snow across the western U.S., across the Sierra Nevada as well, because of those high elevation. Even a lot of those storms are warm, but because of the Sierra Nevada mountains, some peaks that are above 15,000, about 15,000 feet, so it's above that snow line, which has been running about 7,000 to 8,000 feet. So we're going to be seeing that heavy snow continue along those high elevations, but in the lower elevations, we're going to see those enhanced rainfall amounts. So that is a look at why we have this unusual weather across the east and a lot of snow across portions of the west, especially in California. And we're going to see those conditions continue for the next couple of weeks before I can think we'll see a pattern change a bit. And we're going to see that typical, we're not really seeing a La Nina pattern, as we're going to see La Nina begin to wane. And that could be part of the reason why we're seeing that pattern that we're seeing. Mr. G here. Thanks for watching me. Likes, comments, subscribe on YouTube. Leave your follow on TikTok. I will see you guys all in the next video. Bye-bye.